Hey, and welcome back to PN Wreckage, home of overdue haircuts and misunderstood sarcasm. I'm Christian, and today we're going to be talking about my future plans for this truck. And the reason why I'm doing a video before any of those things happen is because I would like your input. So have at it. Thanks a lot. Oh, and just because it's been a viewer request, and I do mean single viewer, I'm going to do a little bit of a different thing with the intro this time. So love to know your feedback. If you like the old one or if you prefer this. This is really more for you, so whatever you guys want, I will absolutely incorporate that into these videos as I continue making them. You know, back when I built my 300ZX and did the engine swap with my buddy, I really had a probably 10-year plan on what the modifications were going to be and where I was going to start and what the brands were going to be. And I really, really loved that. And I really got away from that with the ownership of my last truck, and I couldn't tell you why, and maybe other than just that I had a big fear of voiding my warranty. And it's not that I don't have that fear anymore. I think it's just understanding that there are things that you can do to manage that risk, and some things are really a good idea, and some things like fully deleting your truck would be a really bad idea, just in terms of retaining your warranty. So with this, my number one that I was going to do, and I have a little bit of debate about that now, is getting an intake, and I'm probably going to be looking at the S&B Intake. And the reason for that is because it doesn't void your warranty, which a lot of them say that, but it also retains the factory swing arm in the ram air intake, for especially in the Cummins. And I'm not sure if that's actually present on other vehicles or not, on other engines, but for the Cummins, you have an active air intake where it either feeds directly out of the grill, or if it starts detecting rain, it's super sensitive, it'll swing shut and expose an opening in the wheel well. So you can choose to pull that out and not have that remain as a component in your intake. Generally speaking, unless you live in the desert or a place that doesn't rain at all, which I think qualifies it as a desert, then you have probably some risk with that, just in terms of, hydrolocking your motor, were you to hit a giant puddle or just get something thrown up on you if someone in front of you hits a puddle, or significant rainfall. Anyway, there's some danger there, but if it's a dry day and your goal, if you're at the drag strip or you're dynoing your truck and you're just trying to see what it can put down, that's an option. I like that for a couple reasons. I think it looks pretty slick. I like the exposed, transparent top to it where you can see the filter. I think that's functional as well, so you can see how dirty the thing is. But also, it's got a larger and better sort of tuned tube going from the airbox to your turbocharger, and that is a far cry from the factory design, which obviously was designed for noise, vibration, and harshness, aka NVH testing purposes, rather than maximum power and fuel economy. Word on the streets is that it improves miles, it improves your mileage anywhere from 1 mile per gallon to 2 miles per gallon. I think a lot of that people don't really know that, or maybe they do. I'm curious. I really like the turbo whistle. I love the way the exhaust brake sounds, and that it really enhances or augments the volume of those sounds. So that's a great, even if there's nothing else, that's fine with me. I'm probably going to go with the reusable filter, because I think it actually flows a little better than the disposable filter, and I think red or blue looks a lot better than just white. But I'm obviously kind of a fan of blue if you've seen any of my shirts. So the S&B Intake, likely going to be my first one. I have pretty significant plan for what that video would entail, but it would require a pretty significant investment beyond just the intake, which is about a $330 upgrade from S&B directly. I reached out to them to see if they wanted to provide me with one so that I could just basically do a review for you guys, and they did not bite on that, unfortunately, but I like the intake, and I'd be willing to pull the trigger on that. So that's number one. Let me know what you think about that. Number two is I finally found a workaround to my concern about leveling this truck. And so when you level a truck, it looks a million times better, just my opinion. Your fuel mileage can potentially go down a little bit because the natural rake that your truck has, in order to compensate for loading the back down when you're towing so that your truck remains level, the natural rake sort of keeps the big fat nose of this truck, or these trucks, out of the, just really is sitting up too high and just creating a giant air dam. So it drops it down, does increase mileage a little bit. So leveling your truck can decrease fuel economy a little bit. It's a full-size truck, I'm not gonna cry about it. However, I didn't want to deal with the sort of like Batman signal or bat signal, headlights to the sky symptom that you get when you level a truck and then begin towing a heavier load with it. And that's I hate the way it looks. I think it's not super safe. I'm just not a fan all around. But I found a workaround to that, and that is that with the 2500s, if for anybody who doesn't know, because this is a 2500, they have a coil sprung rear suspension as well. So there's not leaf springs, they're giant coil springs. It's for the purposes of better ride quality, and I think it definitely accomplishes that goal. However, it doesn't have the simple airbag setup that a leaf spring setup has, where it sort of sandwiches between the frame and your leaf springs, or just different components of the truck and your leaf springs. It sits on top of that and acts as sort of a sandwich, like the sandwich meat between those two things in order to level out your truck if you need it to happen. However, I just found out, and I'm a little embarrassed I just found this out, that they actually make like a supplemental airbag kit for the 2500s. They bolt on the outside or sort of, wheel side of each of your coil springs. They're not designed to replace the coil springs, they're designed to enhance it. So lifting this truck or, using a leveling kit and leveling the truck out looks fantastic. Towing with it does not look fantastic. However, I can now level it out with those supplemental airbags. That would also require a more substantial investment than just the leveling kit, which can already be a pretty penny. There are generally a couple options with leveling kits, a couple legitimate options, and I'll just cover those. And that is, you can buy spacers, which sit essentially between the mounting point for your shock or for your coil in the front and the actual coil itself. So spaces it 2 or 2.5 inches depending on how much you want to go. So it raises the front of the truck up. There are some negatives to that, and I'm not personally a fan of just spacing it, because I think you're losing out on an opportunity to improve your ride quality and improve your suspension travel, not just the ground clearance and potentially capability of your truck. So they actually sell coils that are 2.5 inches taller, or result in a 2.5 inch increase, or 2-inch increase. I think you can buy different sets of that. But there's also additional suspension components to be able to ensure that your axle is in the right position. And it's a somewhat complicated process, but doing that the right way, which in my opinion would be getting an actual coil set, requires potentially changing the shocks out. And I got this truck, I ordered the 4x4 off-road package partially because this truck came with Bilstein struts, or Bilstein struts, whatever it is. And I really like the way those ride. They're, I think, a 4100 series, and you can buy a Bilstein 5100 series that sits an additional, or is designed to accommodate that 2-inch or 2.5 inch taller ride height that you get with going with the larger coils. So you have shocks, a steering stabilizer, kind of shock looking thing, which is just kind of a good idea to upgrade while you're in there. You have the spacers themselves, and then you have, I think it's called the stabilizer bar, and I might be wrong about that, but just the thing that orients where your axle is in relation to your wheel well, because once you raise the truck up, it brings your axle back, right, just in relation to where the truck then sits. That didn't make a lot of sense to me until I started looking at how things look when they're kind of bouncing on suspension, but it does do that. So you have shocks, the actual kit or coils, then you have the additional suspension components, and I'm 99% sure there's additional stuff to buy. And in addition to that, the rear airbags, which I am a big fan of the onboard air compressor setup. And I know there are some drawbacks to that, but being able to just dial it in is pretty cool. So I think I'd be looking at more than $1,000 to level the truck out and use my solution for augmenting the rear so that it doesn't sit, like a 80s K car or a 90s Lincoln Town car with blown airbags in the back. So these are two totally different mods. Unless there's something super compelling that one of you guys has an idea about, those are the two that I'm looking at right now. For my first upgrade for this truck, there would be an in-depth video about both of those, and ultimately both of those things will happen to this truck. It's just really a matter of what's going to happen first, and I would like your input on it. If you have a super compelling idea for something that should happen instead, I'm open to hearing that, and I'd love to hear it. So those are the two for now. I look forward to you guys' input. It is an absolutely beautiful day here, and I hope it is where you are too. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.